Today's episode of The Movie Jungle is brought to you by calendars. How else are you going to know what date is? For real. Get a calendar.
Meanwhile, back in the jungle.
All right, welcome back to another episode of The Movie Jungle, episode number 11. And returning to the show is my good friend Mike T. Mike, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me back. Let's hope that the listeners enjoy my silky smooth voice a lot better this time with my upgraded audio equipment.
Yeah, I think it's night and day would be an understatement. Yeah, but we powered through that other episode, and I actually got a comment that I read on the last episode from someone in response to our discussion about apocalyptic movies. So people listened to it; they powered through, which I'm happy to hear. But it's even better now.
What did the comments say? Is it better than YouTube comments?
Oh yeah, for sure. Not to say anyone that wants to leave a YouTube comment on this video, like yours will be good. We know that, but we're talking about other people, not you. But it was a guy named Mitch commented, and he said the reason, because we had talked about how come a post-apocalyptic world always looked all like army green and beige and did color disappear.
Super washed out.
Yeah, super washed out, and he brought up the fact that unprocessed textiles come out naturally as like grayish, like a grayish beige color, and that who would take the time to change it when you got other crazy things to worry about in the world. And I was like, that's a pretty good point.
Yeah, it's a good point. Thanks for the comment, Mitch.
Yeah. So anyways, so welcome to another episode. I mentioned YouTube again a minute ago. I just got the YouTube channel going. So every episode will be up on the normal podcast listening channels. I'm not going to stop doing that. So you can still find them on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else you get your podcasts. But I'm going to add YouTube video versions as well. Some people like to have that option. And we're going to, down the road, have a video option so you can see our silly faces when we talk about movies.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get a haircut after quarantine, or I guess during quarantine now.
Yeah, well, maybe that'll be during. Maybe you can do it during an episode while we're recording. But yeah, so anyways, YouTube's on the way. In the meantime, make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. It's just at The Movie Jungle on both of them. And I want emails, people. You're letting me down. I'm not getting enough emails from you. I would love to reply to emails on the show. So if you want to chat about anything you've heard or anything else, send an email to moviejunglepod@gmail.com.
And if you're one of those people like me who consumes a lot of YouTube, you know that it really helps us out if you hit the like button.
Yeah,
I'm still
or
getting used to
bucking.
talking in microphones.
Yeah.
If you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, it might be fresh now, but there's going to be a lot of cool new videos coming up soon.
Yep, for sure. So, yeah, anyways, with that said, let's get into a little bit of movie news like we do at the top of the show. I got a quick update for you. I'm going to not spend a lot of time on this because it's a podcast and the visual medium isn't here quite yet. But there are new photos of people on set for the new Matrix movie with Keanu Reeves, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Neil Patrick Harris. So, you excited about this movie, by the way? Because you're a big Matrix fan.
I'm a big Matrix guy, but I'm also apparently very old on my Matrix news. Last I'd heard there were just strong rumors of this movie, not that they were actually going to do it.
Oh, they're doing it.
And Neil Patrick Harris?
Yeah, we don't know. Apparently, his role hasn't been revealed yet, but Neil Patrick Harris has joined the cast, and the release date is been pushed to April 1st, 2022. So less than 2 years from now, we'll be sitting in theaters watching Matrix 4. Or we'll be dead. See how this goes.
Wow. Is it by the Wachowskis?
Oh, yeah.
Is it? Because I don't think they've really done anything since like V for Vendetta.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident it is. Let me see. I actually have an
haven't done much.
article up here, but it doesn't say if it's by the Wachowskis or not. But I could have sworn that I heard that it was still them. I don't know. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. And, you know. Oh, wait, yeah, it says in development with Lana Wachowski, who co-wrote and co-directed the original with Lily. So I guess we get one Wachowski back for this.
You get one of the Wachowskis back.
Yep, one of the Wachowskis. So, yeah, so that's cool. So there are some photos of them on set. So if you want to give that a googs, go ahead and have at it. They're not very exciting photos. They're just like very blurry and far away and or in street clothes. So proof they are near each other, I guess. Yeah.
Let me color me intrigued because I am a big Matrix guy. But I mean,
can I tell you something?
The last one seemed to come to a pretty definitive end.
Yeah, I never saw it.
You never saw Revolutions?
No, I saw like the first 20 minutes of it, and I can't remember where I was or why I turned it off. But I never saw it. I know that they're gonna have some explaining to do for a sequel when I believe Neo dies at the end of the third one. But
yeah, pretty. Like I said, Revolutions ended pretty definitively.
Yeah, or did it? Or it was all of that another simulation inside a simulation. Maybe they'll cross it over with Inception. That was a dream about a simulation, about being in the real world, and then time travel too.
I mean, obviously, the first Matrix is a
like
an absolutely stellar movie.
Yeah,
it is.
The
Absolutely
first
stellar
one's great.
movie.
Yeah, I agree.
And they kind of started going a little bit downhill.
Yeah.
So.
Did you ever listen to Will Smith tell his story about the pitch he got to be? Because everyone knows by now that Will Smith was almost cast as Neo. Did you ever hear him tell the story about like getting that pitch?
No, I haven't heard the story, but I'm aware that he was offered it.
Yeah. So he basically is like, look, the way it was pitched to me, they made it sound horrible. Like they were like, yeah, man, you're going to be doing karate in slow motion and like doing this. And like they couldn't quite explain like the visuals they were going for very well. And he was like, you guys are crazy. I'm a pass. And like, but then he says also, he's like, I'm very glad I didn't get it because it would have been the wrong movie with me. He's like, Keanu did a perfect job of making that movie what it should be. So he agrees that it shouldn't have gone to him at this point, but it's on his YouTube channel. It's like an 8-minute video.
Yeah. There's countless stories. I'm blanking on a lot of examples, but there's a lot of stories out there of big name actors missing out on stuff. Yeah. And when you think about it, it never would have worked out. Like who
for sure.
Like in Lord of the Rings, Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn was quite literally a last second pitch.
Who was it before him? Because I've heard this before, but I can't remember.
God, who was it? I'm going to have to look this up real quick.
Yeah. It's crazy because the same thing happened with Captain America. We almost got... wow, he deserves so much more than me calling him Jim Halpert. What's his name? I'm terrible. This is a movie podcast. Anyways... so that would have not been right because Chris Evans nailed it. Which I remember when they announced that casting, I was like, the goofball, Chris Evans, like the goofball / pretty asshole in movies, and he pulled it off. He nailed it. But
who was originally cast as Captain America? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Oh, John Krasinski. That's who. So you can stop yelling at me through the podcast now. I got it. John Krasinski. Yeah, he was literally in the costume at one point.
Was he? I knew that he had auditioned for it. Oh, so the Aragorn guy was just this Irish dude named Stuart Townsend.
I know Stuart Townsend.
He's not. It would have been way different.
For sure. I mean, Viggo Mortensen brought a lot to that role. Like, it's hard to imagine anyone doing anything different with that. It's a pretty simple role, kind of. Would you agree? because he's kind of just has one mood. He's just sort of in the middle. He's just like riding in the middle the whole time, and like he's not ever particularly happy. He just has to navigate different levels of anger or sadness or agnostic behavior.
Yeah, but I'd almost say that that's more challenging, because like, how do you make a character interesting when he's sort of like mostly the same?
Yeah, for sure.
Throughout like 9-10 hours of movie.
Yeah.
And so he does a really good job of, softening up a little bit, being a little bit harder. But like the story of him getting that role is crazy. Stuart Townsend had, I can't remember if he had left set or had been fired basically the first day of filming. And then Peter Jackson calls up Viggo, and then Viggo is back and forth on it. And his son is like, dude, you're stupid for not taking this role. Take this role. And then he shows up like a couple days later in New Zealand.
Yeah, very glad he did. Anyways, yeah, you got some news for us?
Yeah, let's get back on the news train. So interesting. This was brand new. Breaking news.
Guaranteed fact, you mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is breaking news coming to you from Movie Jungle, never before revealed before today. Apparently in the works from the maker of the latest Top Gun movie, Top Gun Maverick, is a reboot of Twister. The 1996? 1996 classic starring Bill Paxton doing a reboot.
Wow. That's actually crazy. Because I don't feel like that movie's old enough to just do it again.
Yeah, and the special effects of that movie were top notch.
They were great.
They still hold up.
They got their own ride at Universal, and I think in Florida. I don't know if the California one had it or not, but Universal had like a dope ass Twister ride that people really liked too. That it probably lasted about as long as it should have, based on what I've seen about it. It was really cool, but then it aged, and then Twister doesn't have like the type of fan base that lives on and wants more, because it's just one good movie from a while ago. It's not like this crazy world building scenario, but
for sure,
that movie is fantastic.
It is. Good. I really can't understand why they would want to reboot it or remake it, because like I said, the acting is top notch, the story is top notch, and the special effects are top notch. I could imagine if maybe this movie was made in like the 60s and the special effects were really that outdated that they'd want to update it, but even for a 24-year-old movie, it's still solid, and I'm kind of worried that they're going to just turn it into this big CGI mess.
Are they going to go super young with the cast too? Just get hot young actors and actresses and have them be all sweaty running from CGI tornadoes?
Yeah, probably. I mean, they might even CGI the rain. I bet $5 they don't even like shoot on set. or like they don't shoot outside. They're gonna shoot just like in front of a green screen all the time.
Yeah, you're probably right. Does it say who's making it or no? Does it say who's behind it or just that it's happening?
So they're currently in negotiations.
Come on, Michael
Bay.
Come on, Michael Bay.
Right? Wouldn't that be great? Looks like they're in negotiations with Joseph Kosinski. Kosinski, the guy who directed the Top Gun Maverick movie.
Oh, you said that earlier. Yeah. So, who knows if that's good? I'm interested by that. I'll definitely see Top Gun Maverick when it comes out. But I like the idea. No,
Top Gun Maverick definitely came
it's
out.
one of the ones that got delayed. But I love the idea.
The COVID delay.
Yeah, I love the idea that Tom Cruise is just like the same exact character that refuses to move on with his life in that movie. I think that's actually a really original take that I wouldn't have thought of. Like, it just seems so natural to have like moved him to a general, or like something has changed in this amount of time. But the fact that he's like, no, I'm a fighter pilot. Go away.
Tom Cruise is one of those actors where he plays he's the same person in every movie.
Yeah.
I'm convinced my headcanon is that every Tom Cruise movie exists in the same universe.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
Where just the entire universe is made up of Tom Cruises.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like he's
sounds like a good Rick and Morty episode.
Yeah, it does. That sounds pretty good. And I think in every movie, in most Tom Cruise movies, you'll see him run. They always want to show Tom Cruise running and like how good a shape he's in.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many of his stunts he does these days, but he definitely still runs.
Yeah, he still does a lot of them. I mean, he broke his leg on The Mummy or Mission Impossible 6, one of them. I think it was Mission Impossible 6. He broke his leg jumping from building to building. He's still doing it. And I think they did, in that same movie, they did over 100 of those like crazy high. There's a term for parachuting from that high up, from like 80,000 feet or whatever it was. But like he did like over 100 of them or something. And they were like... And you can't see the halo jumps. There you go. And you can't see his face at any point. It could be anyone, but he did it.
But he still did it.
Yeah, they've had to film it like 100 times to get like every little camera angle they wanted. So
yeah,
I'll
give him credit. It's pretty easy. Tom Cruise makes it really easy to crap all over him, from just like how big of a weirdo he is to, some of his movies aren't that great, but
yeah, just keep him off a couch and. He's okay.
The dude is like an American Jackie Chan, though.
He really is. I love him.
In terms of a lot of his stunts.
I'm still very engaged by him when he's on screen. Like he still captures me, despite knowing that it's Tom Cruise, despite knowing it's the same character in every movie. He still gets me every time. He's just so charismatic. Yeah. It's silly. But
I was really bummed that his Mummy movie didn't do better, even though like I didn't like it. I didn't think it was a good movie, but I was just so intrigued by the idea of them reviving like the monster universe.
Same, dude. I was very let down.
I was really bummed when they canceled that whole project just because that movie wasn't good.
There's actually a thread of hope for that still. I just heard something not that long ago from another podcast I listened to called The Weekly Planet. Shout out to them. But they talked about, which one was it? It was like Bride of Frankenstein or something, or one of them that was part of the original plan that they decided, because that movie flopped hard, obviously. And then it looked like they were going to cancel the whole thing. But I think I recently heard that they were going to see if this one movie can like save it and then maybe just not have the Mummy in it or something. I don't know. We'll see. But the Universal monsters have not had enough cinematic love in our generation. There's some cool characters.
Some decent. They had some cool plot hooks in that Mummy movie, like Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll.
Yep, that was cool.
Man, I would love to see that movie. Really, just that movie. There's a lot of other cool hooks there, but really, just that movie. I want to see the Russell Crowe, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde movie.
Yeah, he's awesome to watch too. But anyways, Twister, doing that again. Sure, do whatever. Do what you want. I'm getting old and I'm struggling with it, so that's my business. Anyways, I got another piece of news for us. There's a new Scream movie starring David Arquette that will be released in 2021. So David Arquette, still doing it. You know what I'd rather see with David Arquette do? An 8-legged freak sequel. Now that you could sign me up for.
There you go. Really?
Yeah, Scream's coming back, man.
With David Arquette freaking back from the grave.
Yeah, it's directed by the people that directed Ready or Not. I don't know anything about that movie. I'm not a horror fan at all, really. Are you a horror fan?
Yeah. I'm not like it's not like I'm a horror movie fan that looks forward to like Halloween movie season every year. But I do really enjoy really good horror movies.
Yeah. Cool. So we heard you laughing. Does that mean you're not excited for Scream 5?
I'm laughing really more about like the David Arquette part.
He seems
Just
like
'cause
such a. He just seems like a big kid. Like he's not really aging. Like he hit the same. Like he turned 25 and left his maturity level right there, and I don't hate him for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's just like the vibe he gives off on camera, not like him as a person or anything.
yeah. He's done some goofy movies that I really liked.
Yeah, like Eight-Legged Freaks.
Yeah.
I love Eight-Legged Freaks. That movie is fantastic. It also has what's her name in it? One of the Hollywood ladies. It's like Scarlett Johansson in it, maybe. Katherine
David
Heigl.
Arquette is surprisingly not as old as I thought he was.
He's not. How old is he?
How old do you think he is?
David Arquette, I would say 49.
Oh wow, you're right on. He's 48. I thought he was
okay.
like in his 50s.
I mean, that's a couple years
Maybe
off.
that's me.
Not too far off. Yeah. So, anyways, 2021, the Scream saga continues. Wonder who will do it this time. It's a mystery. I hope Scooby-Doo shows up.
It's still Shaggy.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll bring him back to life.
Yep. I got one more piece of news. You got anything else?
Yeah. Let's see here.
Let's do yours first.
Oh, I got a good one for you, Brian. This will be a surprise for you. Maybe you've heard about this.
We'll see.
But as we all know, due to the pandemic and the quarantine, that a lot of the cinema companies or the theater companies are really hurting right now. I know that I've heard rumors of like Regal and whatnot, maybe playing around with the idea of filing for bankruptcy. But I think that they might have a strong strategy for coming out when they're allowed to really start opening up.
Oh boy,
and reaping a lot of money up front. So, straight from Variety, published today, just a few short hours ago. Yep. Regal has a reopening plan that they are going to screen classic movies. The classic movies, Lord of the Rings and the original trilogy of Star Wars, as part of their reopening plan to bring people in and generate revenue. I think that's a genius idea.
That is amazing. Okay, so the people that listen to this podcast are well aware of my obsession with being in a cinema, eating my popcorn. That's my happy place. That's literally my favorite activity, is to go to a movie. And that is music to my ears, because I've been wondering. I know around here, I thought I heard July 10th was the open, like they're going to open at half capacity with like 2 chairs between people in regular cinemas and 1 chair between people in recliner cinemas, and like wipe everything down and wear masks and shit. So I've been wondering what they're going to show, because their own app has only been showing like stuff that comes out well after July 10th, with the exception of one movie. I can't remember the name of it. I think I mentioned it in the last episode, but it's not something I'm excited to see. So the fact that they're thinking about doing classic movies as like a comeback strategy while they wait to catch up to the movie studios that delayed everything, that is genius and amazing. Because like to see that stuff in theaters when I never had a chance to do that before in my whole life, I will not miss that opportunity.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic. It also looks like, reading a little bit more, included in this is also going to be Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, which was also just an amazing series of movies, which will be fun to rewatch in theater.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Looks like the original, the first Jurassic Park is in here. That would be also freaking amazing to see back in theaters.
They did.
This just seems like a really solid strategy to get people back in the seats.
Very, very good strategy. I hope this just continues. Like, they should just pick an old movie, like one a month or one a week or whatever, and just keep doing this forever. Like, I want to see Back to the Future in theaters. I never had that chance. Like, that's amazing. That's such good news. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, Brian, name one movie that you never got to see in theaters that you'd want to see right now.
Beverly Hills Cop.
No.
How about the first Indiana Jones?
That'd be a good one. That would be a good one.
Yeah, I have seen the original Jurassic Park in theaters. They did a re-release a few years ago, and I didn't miss it. But and they started to re-release Star Wars. I want to say they were going to do all the Star Wars. They had this plan. They were going to re-release Star Wars in cinemas, and I think they re-released Episode 1 and maybe Episode 2. Like, they were going to go in order of the titles. And I went and I checked it out, and then they'd stopped. Like, I think it was right before Disney bought them or something like that. But yeah, so original Star Wars, Indiana Jones. I can just look at the crap in my room and name things. Jumanji.
You never saw Jumanji in the theaters? Did I?
If I did, was I old enough to really appreciate it? I don't know. Starship Troopers. More on that later.
I'd like to see like the first cut, the first theatrical release of Star Wars, the first one.
Oh, dude, if they re-release the actual first cut of Star Wars in theaters, it'll be the highest grossing film of the year.
Probably not, but
I think it would. I think it would really be fun huge.
To go. I would go. You can download online. You can download this. Have you heard the version of the film, the despecialized editions?
No.
You can find these online. I think they're free. I'm not sure if they're allowed to even charge money for this. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But some fans meticulously and lovingly recreated as best as they could do the original versions of the 3 OT movies.
Nice.
Based off of VHS and other old footage that people had to, as like I said, to best as close as possible recreate what those movies originally were when they were theatrically released.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It's great. It's not going to be like a wildly different movie experience to what you've seen of like the special editions, but there's a few things in there that's interesting. But I would just like to just see that and see it in theaters.
Yeah,
with none of the updated CGI, which I understand that like this updated CGI adds some decent stuff to it. But
yeah, some of it's really good,
also,
but a lot of it's very jarring and kind of pulls you out.
For sure. When you're watching a movie that's filled with like 1970s practical effects, then all of a sudden you see this really bad like mid 90s CGI bit.
Yeah,
it really pulls you out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
but anyways, I just thought that.
Yeah, that's very exciting. I was just gonna say, there's a lot of movies that struggle transitioning even just to the HD society we live in now. Like, I have movies that I own on DVD that I don't want the Blu-ray because I don't want to see all this crap that I was never meant to see because they weren't preparing for HD cameras when they were shooting these films. So there's been examples of movies picking up details that just make it look worse and it just looks wrong because it's too clear and yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I got another piece of news that'll keep the good news train going. So you gave me a piece of good news. Now I'm gonna give you a piece of good news.
Hit me with it. I'm ready for it.
It's Game of Thrones related.
I'm not ready for it. Let's just move on. On to the main segment of the show.
George R.R. Martin hopes to have The Winds of Winter finished by 2021. So there you have it. Definitively, he'll finish the book next year, and I'm sure he'll make the date, and you can bank on it. It's a guarantee. Interesting.
Yeah. That's cool. I think he still has at least one more book to write after that. Because I think he planned on naming the last book. I know people will correct me on this if I'm wrong. I'm not. I love the show, but I'm not quite a giant book nerd for Game of Thrones. I'm through the first book and I'm halfway through the second book.
Yep.
But I think he plans to release one called The Song of Spring. Was that what it was called? That was going to be the last one. So if Winds of Winter has taken however many years, God, how long is it going to take for him to write Song of Spring? It's going to be...
I don't know.
My 4-year-old is going to be graduating from high school by then.
Probably.
If George lives that long.
Yeah, he'll finish writing it from his new home on the moon. But yeah, I don't...
But that's a good little piece of interesting news.
Yeah, I'll never read it, but people are excited. Those books are just like... maybe I'll rephrase that. I'll read it if people are like, okay, this is way better than what the show was once they move past the books. If it's way better, then I'm interested to check that out. But I don't know if I'm necessarily ready to go through all of Game of Thrones as books, because that's real time consuming. That's a lot.
I would recommend it. I think there's always time for a really good book. I think you'd enjoy it. The books are phenomenal. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about at least the first book and the first half of the second one. The characters are amazing. If anything, I would recommend, because I don't take the time to actually read books, I would highly recommend
just the audio version.
Audiobooks.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm
love
a big audiobook nerd.
Yeah, same. I listened to the Red Rising series, just the first 3. I haven't listened to the 4th book yet. I listened to those on audiobook, and my God, they're incredible. Like, if you're a sci-fi fan, if you like any of this crap we're talking about and you haven't listened to that or read that, you're missing out on something that I'm pretty sure you'll love.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'd be cool. But anyways, that's all I got for news. You got anything else, or are we good?
I'm good on news.
Okay, cool. No more news, so just calm down about it. That's the only news.
There is no more news.
We're recording
There's
this
definitely
on
nothing else.
Yeah, nothing's going to happen between the Wednesday we're recording this and the Monday we're releasing it. Guaranteed. Nothing new will happen. Yeah, so anyways, on to the main topic of the day. Mike, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
Do you want to know more? Yeah, so we're talking about Starship Troopers today. So click yes and come with us. And we made the very wise decision of watching it yesterday. And it's just so freaking wonderful. It's such a good movie. It's just so much fun to watch. Yeah, so it came out in 1997. I remember when this movie came out. I don't think I saw it in theaters. I would have been not quite 11. And you're much younger than me, so you would have been about the same age.
Look, it took me a half hour of arguing with my grandma in a Shopko to get her to buy me an Offspring album about that same year. And so I'm pretty sure she didn't let me go see Starship Troopers in the theaters.
You're probably right. Yeah, so it came out in 1997, which you were telling me before we started recording was one heck of a year for movies. And
it was a great year for movies.
I would have to agree with you. And you told me some interesting box office facts about this one as well.
Right, so just to set the stage here, I mean, this is a year when Titanic came out, the second Jurassic Park movie, Men in Black, Air Force One, Liar Liar, The Fifth Element, the first Austin Powers movie, Jerry Maguire, Flubber, Contact, the first Scream,
Flubber.
Dante's Peak, all of this, the re-release Star Wars special editions, the Jackal, Spawn, Batman and Robin. I mean, anybody who is in the 28 to 38 age range remembers this year very fondly.
For sure.
For just some fantastic movies that came out.
That's a crazy lineup. That's an insane lineup. I've seen
G.I.
every
Jane,
single one
Volcano,
of those movies you named.
Alien
Real quick, Volcano or Dante's Peak?
Dante's Peak, 1,000,000%.
I'm Volcano 1,000,000%.
I don't hate Volcano, but Dante's Peak is like
James Bond runs from a volcano in an old pickup.
Yeah.
You're like, thanks for dropping the mic for me, Brian.
Yeah, the movie is so good. I mean,
yeah, but
you have the young hot co-eds that get boiled to death in a volcanic hot tub. You get the wonderful, adorable old grandma who melts herself to death to push the people across in the boat. I mean, wow, there's so many great scenes in that movie.
Yeah. You know what you don't get, though? The La Brea tar pits boiling.
You don't get Tommy Lee trying to block off volcanic flow with concrete blocks.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you for pointing that out. You also don't get Tommy Lee trying to jump over, or you don't get someone trying to leap over a pit of lava and coming up real short and then melting down to their shins in lava.
God, man, that's such a graphic, brutal scene. Weren't they? They're like that's in like so the good. Tunnel or something, right?
Yeah. Anyways, that was meant to be a quick choice. We obviously have more to talk about on the topic, so maybe someday we should do a volcano episode. We could also throw the movie Pompeii in there. I don't think I've seen it yet. And
no, I haven't yet. Oh, The Fifth Element came out that year too. Anaconda.
Joe versus a volcano. Dude, Fifth Element is one of the best movies ever made.
I'm looking at this list, and 1997 might be a top 10 year.
It has to. Movies. How could it not be? Just The Fifth Element puts it in the top 25 all time. Just having that movie in your year puts you top 25.
Yeah.
That's it's crazy. Men in Black, are you kidding me? The first Men in Black? That movie is amazing.
And then you have the excellent movie.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Ninja came out.
Oh, wonderful. Chris Farley doing what he was meant to do, which is karate.
Yeah. You do have you got a couple cult classics in here. You have a great sci-fi film, Event Horizon came out.
Uh-huh.
Some bad ones that came out too.
Okay, we'll talk about box office in a sec, but give me like two bad ones before we talk about box office.
Well, I loved it, but it wasn't good. Good Burger came out that year.
Oh, yes! We talked about Good Burger on the 8th episode, a couple episodes ago. I talked about Good Burger with Kelly and Jimmy.
Oh. Let's see. Oh, where did it go? Rocket Man came out that year, if anybody remembers that movie.
I am happy to not remember that movie. Is that the one with that?
Okay, so the first Air Bud came out that movie, launching the wildly popular and way too long series.
The 27-part series of Golden Retriever basketball films. I mean, to be fair, they're leading that space. Like, they've got the Golden Retriever basketball movies on lock.
That's right. Gattaca came out that year. That was a great film.
Oh, you couldn't have convinced me to watch that for anything when it came out, but then seeing it as an adult later on, I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting. So tell me about the box office. Because you were saying that this movie beat Austin Powers in the box office, right? Starship Troopers.
It did. It beat it by $1 million.
I mean, that's just the power of Johnny Rico.
At least, of course, according to boxofficemojo.com. I don't know if there's some sort of qualifier here that I'm missing, but it finished at 34, right between Spawn and Austin Powers.
There you go. 34. Wow, that's further down than I would have guessed.
I mean, that's because Titanic was. It's really because Titanic was taking up all the movie. I mean, they finished the year at $1.8 billion.
Yeah, but they didn't have Casper Van Dien. It wasn't a star-studded movie, though, so I'm not surprised at the box office. Like, the cast that's in it at the time it came out was not a big deal. Like, there's like a couple of recognizable people that you don't even know their names are in it. And you got, like, people knew Denise Richards, I think, by now, maybe. but otherwise it's pretty chill as far as the cast goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anyone? So let's talk about this. Who would you recast if you could recast anyone from this movie? If you got to replace someone.
I want to be perfectly honest. I think that movie is perfectly cast.
I think you're right.
I think it's perfectly cast. If you look at Starship Troopers and what it's meant to be, what it's supposed to be,
right? A military satire set in space.
The movie wouldn't be as good, I don't think, if the main characters weren't like a bunch of 90210 knockoffs.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The movie works better, I think, because it's just a bunch of these just like vapid, shallow, empty, nothing behind the eyes, soulless, attractive people.
Yeah.
I think if you tried to put like some real actors in there, it wouldn't be as good. And honestly, the best actors in this movie are not the main actors. I mean, you have as the main command guy at boot camp. You remember the bald dude that tells Casper Van Dien, that tells Rico to get lost after he tries to come back, saying that he'd already signed his release papers. Yep. That's Dean Norris. That is a terrific actor. That's a dude. He's from Breaking Bad and a bunch of other just fantastic movies. He is probably the most actually talented actor in that entire movie.
You're probably right. That guy, yeah, he's a good actor. What about? I mean, Denise Richards is an incredible actress. That was a joke. That was a really good joke.
I'll tell you what, though, Casper Van Dien probably has the sharpest jawline I have ever seen in a movie.
Ever in history. Like, it's insane. It makes him one of the most recognizable people you could ever see. Like, they couldn't hide that face under anything. You'll just cut through it.
Yeah.
But it's crazy when the sequel came out and just was completely forgotten about, and it was like, oh, they made a sequel to that? Oh, it was 3 years ago. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, it's terrible. Well, glad I watched that. But then the third one comes out, and I remember there being like a little mini resurgence on the internet, like people caring about Starship Troopers again, and it's only because those cheekbones were on the poster. Like, it's only because they brought him back.
If you look up any recent pictures of him, I mean, of course, he's still got it. He still has those jawline. I mean, imagine that jawline on somebody who looks old.
Yeah, I'm looking
crazy.
at it right now. Oh wow, he's
like it's really
he looks the same. Is he more handsome
really
now?
It's really confusing to look at.
Jeez, this guy. It's quite a face you got there, Casper. His name is Casper, like the friendly ghost.
I know.
Yeah, that's amazing. But anyways, yeah, I asked and I don't know if I have a good answer for the recast question. I think there are times when Diz bugged me back in the day, but having just watched it again, you can't change her out for anyone else. Like, it was perfect. It just fit the tone of that character perfectly.
Yeah, she did a fantastic job.
Oh, you know who I love is the big guy whose head got blown off. I don't know the actor's name or the character's name, but I love him in the Major League series. And so maybe that's my choice, only because he's great in his role when he's in it. But because I like him, I was really bummed when he his head got blown off. I don't know. Maybe that helps the movie, though, to care about the character that died. But
I mean, I think the director and the people that made that movie deliberately chose not good actors.
Yeah, that's possible.
I think that was part of the movie. I mean, I think it's a pretty underrated movie.
Well, it has. You mentioned the shallowness, and it has a very intentional shallow vibe to everything that's happening.
Yeah,
like 21 million people die in the attack on Buenos Aires, and they just show it as a quick number on screen, and in one of those intense fake news cuts, and it's just like millions of people died. What are you gonna do to help the cause? Like they just blow over it, and it's like their mourning lasts all of 15 seconds, where she leans on his shoulder and she goes, "Oh, Johnny, that's us," and then they just go straight to mad. I want to fight. And like they just So yeah, there's not a lot of room in this movie for emotional time wasting.
So I know this movie by some lesser reviewers have labeled it as like pro-fascist propaganda.
Yeah, that's.
But
silly.
I think it's pretty clearly it's an entire satire on that entire argument.
Yeah. There are papers written about this movie, and it's the level of satire that it is and how genius of a film it is.
Yeah, it's way... And it's really silly for like a movie that is on its surface. Like really, it's like if you only go fingernail deep in this movie, it's really stupid.
Yeah.
It's dumb. The acting's bad. The writing's worse. But once you start getting deeper into this movie,
the timeline,
the choices that are made, and how it's shot, everything from like the fake propaganda clips to the costume choices, and then to the casting choices, it's just a fantastic satire piece that just obliterates, or not obliterates, but just makes fun of fascism in every form.
Yeah,
because this really is a society that is just built all around like military force and obedience. I mean, the movie starts on Professor Radchek, basically talking about how violence is the answer to every problem, and everybody is brainwashed into like, yeah, okay, yeah, of course,
yeah.
And you see a little bit of humanity in Rico.
Yeah. Well. Do you see
right
some
at the beginning
the
of the
idea
movie.
The idea of humanity?
Yeah. Well, there's that scene where Professor Radchek, he looks at Rico, and I can't remember exactly what he says, but he's paraphrasing. He basically says he's asking whether or not Rico agrees that essentially violence is the answer to every problem,
right?
Or the your problems can be solved by aggression. And you do see a little bit of question, a little bit of humanity in his response, and he says, I'm not sure, I don't know.
Yeah.
But then by the end of the movie, he is a full-on... How does he end the movie? He says he's rushing into battle with his gun out. Do you want to live forever?
Yeah. Well, he asked the guys the same question, too, because he's like the new colonel or whatever his rank is by the end of the movie. He's the new president of the United States of America and baddest motherfucker on the planet. And he's like, I only got 2 rules. Like, you have to fight, and what was the other one? He just repeats what Radchek says.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he just becomes Radchek. Like, so... If there ever was the idea that he was any different, it's very much eschewed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think you can change the cast too much in this film. I think that Neil Patrick Harris is one of the few people that brings genuine charisma. Is that the right way to say it? Because like Casper Van Dien is an intriguing guy to watch, but only because he's like a cartoon character doing what he thinks is acting. That sounds really mean, but like it's because they wanted it to feel satirical. That's what they're all doing. That's what all the actors are doing. They're doing a satirized version of their characters. And I feel like Neil Patrick Harris couldn't quite turn off the charm enough, and it created like one of the only characters in the movie that you think is a real person. And
but then he
it
also
fades.
ends the
it
movie.
fades later in the movie when he turns into like the pop collar, big jacket boss man. Like then he starts to fit into the rest of the cast more. But in the beginning, he's like a real kid. Like he's like funny and he's interesting and he's charismatic and yeah.
Yeah.
Which maybe that's on purpose. Maybe that's them showing that like that way of thinking or the military system will strip your humanity from you. Maybe they thought about it that far. I don't know. But,
yeah, he does. Neil Patrick Harris's character, he ends the movie as the most evil character.
Does he?
Yeah, well, I mean, look at him. He's wearing a fucking Gestapo uniform.
That's true.
Straight out of the SS when he ends that movie. I mean, most of the costume choices have very strongly influenced, obviously, by the SS and the Wehrmacht and the whole Nazi military.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he straight up looks like a friggin' SS officer.
He does. Yeah. He's one patch away from being real close to the Fuhrer. But yeah. What'd you think of so let's go back to the beginning. Actually, here, let's talk about this. I was looking up fun facts, and I'll talk more about some fun facts later. But I found one that said what year the movie took place in. Did you have any idea? Do you have any clue when this movie allegedly happens? Like, they don't indicate it during the film ever. Apparently, it's 2197.
2197. Wow.
Yeah.
So, like, still almost 200 years from now.
Yeah, which, to be fair, I have a pet peeve of movies not being willing to go far enough into the future. Like, this is closer. This is okay. This is okay. Like, 2197 with the technology they have. Like, we can make metal footballs now. We can replace a basketball court with a giant wrestling pad now. We can go to space right now. So, like, okay, in almost 200 years, will we be able to, like, leave the solar system? I still think that's a maybe. But if we do, I think it'll still be really slow, like lifelong journeys, people that just get on a ship and never come back type of thing. But I think movies need to just be like, you know what? It's the year 3125. Like, just don't even, like, cut it close. Just shoot way long, and you'll probably still over predict certain things. Like, Avatar takes place in 2154 from memory. I think that's right. At least in the beginning when he's first, like, trying to get used to his new surroundings. 2154. So, which I don't buy one bit that in 120 years we're going to be doing anything like what they're doing in Avatar. Like, I think it's like maybe sort of putting your brain into another body. I'll buy that. But just as far as space travel goes, I don't think that's happening. But this movie takes place in 2197. What do you think of their 2197 culture with the futuristic football and the mediocre screens everywhere? And it's kind of a fun habit of 90s movies to predict the future just is more screens that are like more and larger screens, but they're never better. They're still like 480p. Like, they're not.
Right. But I mean, that's super common though. I mean, look at my favorite depiction of the future is the stuff that came out of like 70s movies.
Yeah. Like what? Logan's
like
Run?
Star Wars. Like look like the original Star Wars, where everything kind of just looked like a dirty future version of the 70s.
Yeah, except that was a long time ago. That was their prediction of what the past looked like.
Right. But even look at
effectively though, it is their depiction of space travel and stuff.
But even look like I think Alien, the first Alien, is a really great example where it's pretty futuristic, but it still has a very 70s flair to it. You have all of the
it's
computers
like
have a green
futurism.
have green tint to them.
Yeah.
Everything is running off of like whatever the predecessor to MS DOS was.
Yeah.
But it works. It's so believable because it's just like it's consistent.
Just look at the buttons on the ships in Star Trek series, like all the old Star Trek series. Just look at the the buttons they have. Even if you look at Next Generation and Voyager and stuff, they've moved on from buttons to a bunch of touch screens. But the things on the touch screens don't even like change or light up or move. Or they're just like
yeah. I mean, it doesn't bug me so much if movies don't go far enough into the future, because I think that still kind of, in a lot of ways, it'll keep it relatable if it's not too far off. Yeah, because I think, well, I mean, look at how much civilization's advanced in the last 100 years, right? Yeah. And the advancements are only getting quicker. So, I mean, maybe it makes sense in 100 years or 50 years, you know, there's going to be another great leap forward.
Do you think you'll ever go to the moon? I asked Betty this question today. I was like, do you think either one of us will ever go to the moon? I'm happy so. I'm happy enough that it's hard to answer. Like, it makes me really happy that we live at least close enough to a technologically advanced time that it feels like it's possible that 55 years from now, when I'm an old man, I can get on a ship that's like more akin to an airplane and fly to the moon and walk around on a moon station or something, like a space station on the moon.
It's definitely possible. I would say that probably not. I don't think it'll become cost effective enough to just send normies down there unless, you know, one of us ends up getting super rich within the next 40 years.
Yeah.
But I mean, the technology definitely exists. If it's not going to be us, it'll be our kids or our grandkids.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
You know, but that's always the fun and interesting thing about how do movies of today predict the future. I mean, look at 1979's Alien versus 2009 Star Trek. You know,
for sure.
They're predicting what the future is going to look like in kind of the same time period in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And they looked wildly different.
Yeah. I think Alien has always done a good job of making it look like a believable future. And Star
J.J.
Trek
Abrams
is extra slick.
Yeah. Especially J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. I mean, everything is white and slick. Yeah. Everything's touch screen and huge and...
it doesn't feel as lived in, but that's also Star Trek though. Like Star Trek feels a little bit more, what's the word? I don't know. It feels more sterile. Just like it doesn't feel as lived in. It feels like this is the new perfect world where we keep everything clean and everything's fine. So that's part of it. But, so anyways, in regards to this movie, Starship Troopers, taking place in 2197, that's cool. I never knew that. That's a fun fact. But when you're watching it, how do you feel about the timeline of events in the movie? Because it's insane. Like, you could make the argument that in 1 month, he goes from high school student to a brigadier general, or whatever he is, lieutenant, whatever, at the end of the movie. Or there are gaps where it seems like it's up to the viewer. You can just assume that it's been, oh no, it's probably been at least a year in training. Oh, it's been a year since the attack on not Klaatu. What was that first planet they failed on?
Klendathu?
Something like that. So like you could just assume that there are gaps when you want, I guess, because they never talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's probably pretty easy to assume that there's at least a minimum of a year, if not 2 years, from the beginning of that movie to the end of it.
Yeah, I like to give it the benefit of the doubt and assume the same thing. Like, I've heard arguments for,
well, because what's modern boot camp? Modern boot camp, I think right now is like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, so 10 to 15 weeks.
Assume something like that.
So they didn't quite make it through their boot camp, right? So let's say 3 months, and then they go to Klendathu, and they get their ass handed to them. By the way, the body count in this movie was, I think I saw it, 256. So for those wondering.
Yeah.
But so 3 months after boot camp starts, they go to Klendathu and get crushed. And then, I don't know, that's where the weird gaps start, where you can assume it's been a week because there's no evidence to the contrary, or you can assume it's been a year or 6 months or whatever. When we start seeing Radcheck, like when Radcheck shows up, he's acting like they're talking about him like as if that he's been their captain forever, and like they're like, oh, you used to know, you knew Klandatu before the war, like they're old grizzled veterans of some kind. And he's like, oh yeah, a few months ago, yeah, I was in his class a few months ago. Like, or it could be a couple years. So I just think it's interesting how they just avoid it altogether. They're just like, yeah, you can figure out if you whatever you want it to be.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I don't like things left unanswered in movies, so that part of me wishes there were just little 1 year later, etc. things on screen for those parts, but there's enough clues for me to assume that it's at least a couple years for the whole movie.
Yeah, I'm assuming that there's a decent amount of time that's passed.
Yeah.
Probably assuming that there's other battles that have happened that we didn't see on screen.
Yeah, for sure.
Travel times and trainings or whatever else.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Or how the guy that
kind of how.
I was just gonna say one more thing on the timeline real quick. How the guy that he played against in the football game that was at the dance and everything. How she shows up to flight school and he's her boss already. It's like, wait, what? Why?
Yeah.
Is this like a running start program in space that I don't know about? Like, it was crazy. It's like, okay, should you have not played in that football game, sir?
Were you like held back or something?
Yeah. Or is it even college? Maybe they're in college. There's no answers.
I do really kind of like this, like the general way that the movie is shot as, this like parody of a propaganda movie.
Yeah, for sure. It's great.
The satire in this movie is deep, like deeper than any Mel Brooks movie.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like you said, there are reviewers that didn't get that. Like, they didn't understand that they were poking fun at this type of world. They thought they were like,
yeah, there's genuinely reviewers out there
somehow.
Yeah, there's genuinely reviewers out there. Well, and especially back in '97 when the movie came out, there was just some brain dead idiots that, you know, wrote knee-jerk reaction reviews to this movie that literally thought they were just pro-fascist.
Yeah.
When it's really just the complete opposite.
Yeah.
What was? But I was looking at another movie. What was it? Shoot, there was another movie that came out in the '90s. I was just looking at it.
There's a lot of movies that came out in the '90s. To be fair,
there's more than one.
Yeah, you named a lot of really good ones earlier.
Oh my gosh!
What about the movie were you trying to remember? Like, what is there a similar movie?
There were a lot of movies that came out like in the '80s and '90s and early 2000s that were in kind of the same theme, whereas it was like a populace or a population or a nation that seemed pro-fascist, like it's a pro-military people that loves violence and is idolizes the military and its participants. I was just looking at this like 2 hours ago, and I've already forgotten what it was. Shoot.
That's right. If you find it or if you think of it, we can come back to it. You know what? I'm going to bring something up that I totally forgot. I want to know what you forgot about this movie, because it had been a minute since I had seen it. And one thing that I completely forgot about this movie was the flying insects. Totally forgot. Like, when they showed up, I was legit caught off guard, and I was like, oh yeah, wow, okay, yep, forgot about those completely. and like just the design of them, and like their wings almost look more like a contraption than like bug wings. I don't know. It caught me off guard quite a bit.
Yeah, I didn't remember the bug guys. I had forgotten how gory it was.
Very, very, very gory. They almost had a NC-17 rating. They had to cut. There's a scene in it where on the Whiskey Outpost base where a guy gets decapitated. And they had to cut that to avoid the NC-17 rating, but I'm pretty sure the Netflix version had it. So the one we watched, because I remember it, the guy gets decapitated by a flying bug, and they had to cut that to avoid the NC-17 rating. But yeah, this movie is brutal. They're just bodies everywhere, people getting torn apart. It's crazy.
And it was definitely the first movie I saw. 'Cause this movie came out when I was 11.
Yeah.
This was the first movie that I saw that had as much nudity as it did.
I remember being excited about those boobs.
And I forgot about that too.
I was 11.
Between the violence and the nudity.
I don't think we were 11 yet, because we're December people. So we were 10.
Right. That's true.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Which 10-year-old Mike probably is disappointed with me that I'd forgotten about that, because I'm sure that he was really excited about it.
Yeah. Who did you want him to... I was just saying, who did you want him to end up with? Diz or...
I mean, that whole like love... that like triangle love square...
Yeah.
Was so... Right, so the movie starts and Rico loves Carmen.
Yep.
Carmen doesn't really like Rico.
Seems
completely... She breaks up with him really quickly.
Oblivious to... Like, she just smiles and nods, doesn't care that he's like, hey, I love you. And she's like, neat. Like, she just
Diz
is like this robot.
Diz loves Rico, and what's that other guy's name? What's football dude?
I don't know.
Jock
I don't think
pilot guy's name.
I don't think I ever remembered it. I'll check real quick, but
he really likes Carmen, and then we get a little bit in the movie, and Carmen follows Jock guy into the pilot's corps, into the Space Force, and Diz seemingly follows Rico into the infantry.
Guy's name is Xander.
Xander, God, what a fucking 90s name.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very 90s name. Oh, yep. Definitely.
What a 90s name.
Yeah. But yeah, they're
it's
little...
like it's also kind of it's like the whole like love square that's going on is kind of tragic, right? So the movie starts, Rico and Carmen are together. Yeah. And it's a little one-sided, but Carmen still cares for and likes Rico.
Right.
You know, I believe that she loves him at the beginning of the movie. And then we get a little bit into the movie, and Carmen follows Xander into the Space Force. And Diz, you know, she tells us she didn't follow Rico in, but she still winds up in his unit.
Yeah.
And
she's like, I
Xander
specifically
clearly
requested
loves
this unit, and then they leave it at that. She's like, no, I'm not
Xander,
following you.
Right. Xander clearly loves, or is clearly really into Carmen. Carmen's likewise. Diz is clearly super into Rico. And then once Rico gets his heart broken by Carmen, you know, a few short scenes later, Rico now realizes that Diz was his soulmate all along, and they have this, it's very brief, but this really like deep connection, it seems like, where they really get each other. Yeah. It's probably the best short relationship that I've seen in the movie and in a lot of movies. But then she dies.
She does, like,
right? Diz dies brutally right in front of him. It's so so
harsh,
brutal,
dude. It's very harsh.
I
remember being surprised at that. Like, I think I remember that she died, but just gets stabbed 6 times and torn apart, and like, oh my god.
Yeah. It was so hard to watch. I felt really bad for her, but I also really felt really bad for Rico because they had like this great connection all of a sudden.
I think in that moment he went, you know what? Forget people. I'm just gonna put everything into this whole military thing.
Yeah, I definitely think he lost what was left of his humanity there.
Yeah, for sure.
And then a couple scenes later, at the end of the movie, you see Xander and Carmen get knocked down to the planet into the brain bug cave.
Yep.
And Xander brutally, just like Diz did in front of
yep.
Rico, Xander gets brutally killed.
Oh, it's even worse. They
in
suck
front
out
of
his
Carmen.
Brain. Yeah.
Yeah, man, such a hard scene to watch.
Also, so a question about that scene though. He gives that knife to Carmen. He's like, "Here, protect yourself. Why don't you cut that thing off?"
Right?
Like she uses it to cut the thing off and like free herself or whatever. But like, and which was purely luck because the one bug that was holding her down like tossed her in front of the brain bug instead of keeping his leg inside of her and holding her down. So, that wasn't smart. That's gonna hurt that bug's chance at any type of promotion. But so that was really lucky. But why not just use that thing yourself? Maybe he figured he was already dead or something. I don't know. But
I don't know. But she witnesses. It's
dude, you're right though. So brutal.
Like
I think hers is even worse because there's like just like that whole
scene.
execution to it.
Yeah. But it's like the same scene back to back almost. I mean, there's a few scenes in between, but they're almost the exact same scene. I mean, Rico sees his girl get brutally killed right in front of him. Yeah. Carmen sees her guy brutally killed right in front of her. And then when the movie finally ends, there's that scene where Rico, Carmen, and Doogie Howser are walking off, mirroring that scene when they were walking out of high school, where they made their super lame, very high school pact that they'll always be friends.
Oh, always, Mike. It's not lame.
And
it's beautiful.
But they've lost everybody they cared about. They are now hardened warriors. Rico has been turned into this like blood machine. Doogie Howser has been turned into this Gestapo officer.
Doogie Howser. Fun fact real quick about that since it's pertinent. Apparently on set they called him Doogie Himmler whenever he was wearing that jacket because of Heinrich Himmler, who, if you don't know, Heinrich Himmler was an SS whatever captain or whatever general. So whenever he was wearing that
Himmler,
they called him Doogie Himmler.
I can't.
It was pretty funny. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's so brutal, dude. To just like you said, there might be a couple scenes in between, but they're just like, oh, love square? Psych. Like, what love square? And then in the end, and then for a second you're left thinking like, okay, I guess I'm back to shipping Carmen and Rico if that's what they want. But then at that point Rico doesn't care, and they end up just being friends again. Like their little pact holds up by the end of the movie. And like
it's way darker.
Yeah. I do one thing I really like about this world they've built in this movie is the way they deal with injuries. Like if you remember, the big farm boy gets his arm broken in the beginning of the movie in training camp, and then it's not that big a deal because he's seen, like, it appears to be later that day or something shortly after that, they're getting lunch or dinner, and he's got this like crazy futuristic cast that's full of blue liquid just on his arm. And so they've got some type of like nanobots or liquid healing system going on in this world. And then you see Rico in that whole tank. It's like a sideways back to tank. And
oh yeah, the back to tank. That was a great scene.
Yeah. And so and I love how every time they're inside, so they don't treat injuries very seriously, but they also they show you why, right? Like, oh yeah, we can deal with a broken arm super easy. Rico got all these crazy injuries. Throw him in a tank, he'll be fine. So then when Diz does get brutally attacked, he's like, he thinks he can save her, And there's a little bit of like reason for him thinking, even though she was like, she's beyond saving for sure and dies shortly after that. But he like gets her into the ship though, thinking I'm going to save her. So it kind of allows them to play fast and loose with like Carmen getting stabbed through the shoulder later and then just like running away, like not too worried about it. Like she knows that they'll throw some mouthwash on it and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like that. I like that piece, that part of the world that they built.
That was good. And like, what was it? What's his name? Jake Busey, Gary Busey's son that's in there, like the big
Ace. His name's Ace. Yeah, he was dope.
What a great
him.
Character.
Yeah, he's so good. I love the just asshole
he almost stole the movie.
Yeah.
He steals every scene that he's in.
His haircut steals every scene it's in. It's just the most perfect blonde, long crew cut. Like, yeah. Whenever you're done here, go ahead and go back into Street Fighter, Guile. Like it's just
right.
It's fucking awesome.
Thanks, Guile. We don't need you anymore.
Yeah, like his little shirt and his camo pants, and yeah, it was great. That was a great role, and it just it all fit so well. Like every character was this perfect satirical version of that. Like persona or whatever.
But there's that scene when he was in boot camp where he got nailed with that knife in the hand.
Yeah,
because he was giving lip to the drill sergeant.
Yeah,
and then like this next scene, he's fine.
Yep.
After he just took like a 4-inch blade to the middle of the hand,
just through his hand completely. Like great throw by that boot camp guy though. Very impressive.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. So the bugs themselves, let's talk about them a little bit. I think the CGI on this movie holds up a lot better than I would have guessed.
It really
There's
did.
obviously a handful of things that aren't good, but there's a great mix of practical effects with the CGI, especially with the brain bug, and it holds up, man. Like I was very surprised.
Holds up very well. It really, really holds up. Everything from the spaceships.
Yeah.
The brain bug, but even like the quality of the bugs themselves is good enough that it doesn't really pull you out of it even 20 years later. There's a couple like massive wide scenes where you just see thousands of bugs getting blown up and it looks good. It still looks good.
It does. It really holds up.
I mean, some of those scenes look better than like Independence Day that was released like the next year.
Yeah. And the budget, they had a good budget. I'm looking here. It says they had a $105 million budget. I don't know if that includes the advertising budget. Usually they don't include that. So you figure almost around double that for the actual budget. But for making the film, $105 million in 1997, that's a healthy
That is
budget.
A lot.
It's a healthy budget. But the point is, though, is that it shows.
Yeah, they did good work with that budget.
Yeah, for sure. It only grossed, it says worldwide gross, $121 million. They've got to have tacked on another $100 million in syndication and Netflix rights and things like that. So I imagine that movie by now has a financial success when you include the advertising budget. But yeah, I'm a little surprised at that $105 million though. That's bigger than I would have guessed, just because it was 1997, not because it doesn't look like it cost that much. Because, like we just said, it looks fantastic. But God, that brain bug was nasty, man. Like, I remember it being really gross and just seeing it and be like, ugh, get this off screen. This is disgusting. I don't even want to look at this thing. And it's the same.
Or that scene where they that great scene where they shove that thing into its mouth and they censor it
to study it. Yeah.
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 That's probably, I mean, there's a lot of great things in this movie, but I always did love it when they cut away to the pseudo propaganda bits.
Me too, dude. They're so good. The movie starts with one of those. It cold opens like with a pseudo propaganda bit, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it uses them so effectively. Nothing really like this movie has come along again, in my opinion. Like, because we've I don't know if people make satire like that anymore. They just go all the way now and make straight up like goofy ass slapstick like comedies.
Yeah, they really don't. Satire doesn't really exist. I mean,
yeah, because satire is not just.
It's probably hard to make a satire in the current environment that we live in, politically and socially and whatnot. Like, you know, we don't need to make this a political conversation, but that movie could probably, I don't even know if that movie could be made these days, because I think many people would just think that it's a pro-fascist movie.
Well, it would reveal some of our current regime's plans, and so they wouldn't want this, like, they wouldn't want people knowing what they plan to do in the future, so they'd shut it down for sure. They'd be like, no.
But
no,
I
no,
think,
no.
I think that a lot of people that would, people wouldn't see it as satire. They would just think that it's, you know, just pro-fascist instead of seeing it as satiric against fascism. But I mean, look at some of the best satire movies that have ever been made. Like anything that Mel Brooks has ever been made, none of those movies would be able to be created today. You know, Blazing Saddles or
God, I love Blazing
Men in
Saddles.
Tights.
The best
or
part
Men
of
in
Blazing
Tights
Saddles.
or Baseballs or none of those. No Mel Brooks movie could be made today.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know if there's really an appetite for satire. Everybody takes things really seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, maybe things will change in the future. But
I still have to get it out of my system. But my favorite part in Blazing Saddles is when the guys ride up to town and there's a toll booth. And instead of just riding around it, he's like, somebody go back and get a shitload of dimes. It's like, it's one of my favorite lines in movie history. I love it so much. It's so good.
It was so dumb.
Oh, man. But anyways, yeah, so Starship Troopers is incredible. Let us know what you guys think of it. I mean, it's fantastic. And I don't think we plan on watching the second one and talking about that on here, but I threw out the idea of watching Starship Troopers 3 because Casper Van Dien comes back, and it feels more like a true sequel.
Van Dien and the Return of the Chiseled Chin.
Exactly. So it feels more like a true sequel. So if you want us to talk about that one, let us know in the comments or send us a message, or if you have thoughts about this one. So anyways, I think we got time for one more segment. Probably my favorite segment that we do here at the Movie Jungle, and I call it Unnecessary Sequel. And for those that don't know what that is Mike and I will play the role of Hollywood bigwigs that would like to create a sequel to a movie that does not need a sequel. Examples in the past have been Gladiator and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Those in the first 2 episodes, respectively. Very funny. Go listen to it if you haven't. But today, Mike has come up with a couple of suggestions that I think are fantastic. Which one do you want to go with? We've got 2 suggestions here. We've got Signs and The Happening.
Some great M. Night fodder.
Yeah. I think it's true that neither needs a sequel. I think it's true that one of them probably doesn't need to exist in the first place.
That's true. I think we should go for The Happening.
Okay, well, let's do it. So we're going to pitch a Happening sequel to Hollywood so they can make millions. First off, let's recap the movie real quick. So the premise of that movie is, if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry for spoiling it, but also I'm not. Mother Nature has released a chemical into the air that counters a chemical in our human brain that's responsible for preventing us from causing ourselves harm. So it flips it. So it makes us want to cause ourselves harm. And so it makes everyone start to kill themselves. And it turns out, you find out in the end of the movie, that it is really, that it's really a warning shot from nature because we're polluting the earth too much. And so the earth is clapping back and being like, okay, you're going to pollute me? Well, guess what? I'm going to make you kill yourselves. And I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't remember if it ends like, I think they just sort of figure out that that's what it was and they promise to do better. I don't know how Mother Nature gets that message or how I don't remember why the movie stops. Do you remember, Mike?
No, it's the outbreak just stops as quickly as it starts.
Yeah.
For no discernible reason.
Yeah, for sure. So, anyways, so I guess we've got Mark Wahlberg. He's coming back, right? Is he still alive at the end of the movie?
Yes. And
Cool.
Zooey Deschanel is in this movie. So is John Leguizamo. I forgot that he was in there.
Nice, solid cast. So yeah, we're gonna have all of our heroes coming back. Should we even look this up, or should we just pretend we know what we're talking about? What do you think?
I've just quickly reviewed the plot on Wikipedia, the best of resources.
Nice.
So the movie ends. So the movie ends with Mark Wahlberg and Zooey Deschanel's character Elliot and Alma Moore.
Yep.
After they've survived the outbreak, they have their new adopted daughter Jess, which I think was another one of the survivors that they had hunkered down with.
Yeah.
While they're adjusting to their new life on television, an expert comparing the event to a red tide warns that the epidemic may have only been a harbinger of an impending global disaster. But his theory is met quickly with disbelief, with the interviewer reminding him that only the northeastern United States had been affected. Alma, Zooey Deschanel's character, the wife, learns that she is pregnant and surprises Elliot with the news at their front step. And then we learn that another wave of suicides has begun propping up in Paris, France.
Okay, so this is where we leave our intrepid heroes. I'm going to throw this idea. Feel free to shoot it down. What if she's pregnant with like a tree-human hybrid? Do we like that? Do we not like that? It's a nice little FU to Mark Wahlberg from Mother Nature.
It's taking a big left turn.
It is.
I kind of like the idea. Like, what if the sequel is not directed by M. Night? Because
okay,
like we got a good solid starting point, but we're not gonna let M. Night touch the next one. We're gonna go straight action movie.
Okay, I like that. I think that might fit a little better since the mystery's out already. All M. Night does is mysteries. The mystery's out. We know what's happening in this world. Now we can make it an action film. So if M. Night's out, who do we go with, you think? Anyone jumping out to you? I mean, Michael Bay's an obvious choice.
Michael Bay's an obvious choice for any sequel.
J.J. Abrams, I think, would like the I think could be intrigued.
J.J. Abrams would be a really good one
to do it, I think.
J.J. Abrams would be really good because I think that he is good at creating mystery when there is none. Because like plot and development isn't really a strong suit. He just keeps adding more questions, and he's really good at creating more questions. So I think that this might work.
I think it's perfect.
But
we can't answer the audience's questions because then they won't come back for number 3. So I think JJ is perfect because he's going to add more questions.
So we bring JJ in and his signature lens flare.
Yep. Do we follow it straight up with like right where we leave this off, or do we time jump?
I'm thinking like maybe a small time jump. Once that there's been a significant number of people, maybe the outbreak has started to spread across Europe, and we close in on a meeting of government officials, maybe U.S., maybe it's an international presidential coalition, and the humans are going to work together to get back at nature,
at the plants that are keeping them alive.
They're going to fight back.
Right.
Yep.
Fight back against the oxygen producing plants. I like this.
So
this is a really good start.
They discover a way.
I have an idea for the for the opening credits real quick. I think we got to have like the Rise of the Planet of the Apes style opening credit, like news montage of what happened in Paris and how it got, ravaged through London and is still working its way through Europe or whatever.
Yeah.
I think we need that in the opening credits, and then we close in on this room with all these government officials.
Yeah, and maybe it'll be told, maybe it'll be shown in a way where it's this sort of like mysterious Illuminati-esque room where it's just like one guy standing in front of like 15 screens.
Yep.
That has a bunch of like shadowed out or blacked out world leaders.
Just silhouettes.
Yeah, right. Silhouettes.
Yeah.
Or it could really just be like just a bunch of world leaders sort of talking about how to get back at
technology in it. Unnecessarily technologically advanced, like huge, crazy holographic screens. I think that'd be good.
Yeah.
Because people like sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what JJ would bring to the table. But
exactly.
I'm thinking like the whole premise of the movie is going to be humanity striking back out at the planet, and then it turns into this arms race. Can the planet kill the humans faster than the humans can find an alternative to plants?
Yep,
for the creation of their oxygen and the filtering out of the CO2.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have these two competing storylines of this like R&D department where this really nerdy guy and this really hot nerdy woman is going to be researching solutions to getting over our dependency on green plants
for breathing,
and that'll be juxtaposed with this other
just
storyline with
this
Mark
uglier,
Wahlberg,
more everyday, sweaty Mark Wahlberg. Because remember, he's like a nerdy school teacher in this, and he'll be trying to reach out, and he'll be trying to.
But Mark Wahlberg, Mark Wahlberg is basically going to turn into Tom Cruise in this movie,
right?
And just become an action hero,
right? But he's gonna look like a school teacher still because that's this character, and he's gonna talk
like
funny.
I'm imagining some like beige or white New Balances with some golf shorts and a polo t-shirt on.
Yeah, for sure. Do we give him? We definitely give him glasses too. So he's trying to convince them that if we just lay down our weapons, aka stop polluting so much, turn off some of the factories that are pumping some bad emissions into the atmosphere, shut the cars down. If we just like stop doing this, then the Earth will stop trying to kill everybody or make everyone kill themselves. So he's like kind of advocating almost for Mother Nature at this point. But
I'm thinking maybe we introduce a Johnny Rico-esque story arc to Mark Wahlberg's character, in that he comes in with the best of intentions, a little bit of humanity left. He wants to heal the world.
Yep.
But then maybe his new son or his new child inside of Zooey Deschanel does turn into be this like explosive tree monster.
Yeah, that kills Zooey Deschanel.
Just like that like sprouts from inside of her, and then we see Mark Wahlberg go dark side.
Yeah, I like that.
And then, like,
that's a good heel turn. I think I like that. And while we're stealing things from Starship Troopers, I just have to steal one more thing. The clip of the kids stomping on bugs in the propaganda commercial. I think we need propaganda commercial for this, where kids are like just indiscriminately cutting down leaves and trees and just like kicking dandelions and
I would like to see just like
the lawn
teenagers walking into a meadow with like canisters of Roundup and just like dumping them all over the place.
For sure. You have like a classic like nuclear family setup with like a dad in his dad outfit. similar to our hero's outfit, Mark Wahlberg's.
Yeah,
and what he's doing is he's
driving out to the wilderness
he's torching his lawn with like a hose, literally just like flamethrowing his lawn, and his family's like clapping behind him and smiling, and it's like that whole kind of do your part piece of it.
It's just super piece of propaganda. That'd be great.
Yeah,
or just watching this nuclear family again go out in their Ford Taurus or whatever, driving out into the wilderness and just dumping extra pollution.
Yes.
You have a montage of people just taking unnecessary drives, or anytime they fill up their gasoline tank, they dump an extra gallon onto the ground.
Yep. I like it. I already got our post credit scene. I'll save it until we're ready for it, but just remind me.
Okay.
Because I've got it ready to go. But okay, so I love the commercials and the propaganda, getting everyone to chip in to destroy the world while we hopefully find a solution for the whole oxygen issue. Do we have some sort of BS science that can separate the oxygen from the hydrogen molecules in water, and we start going through our own water supply?
Yeah, we definitely have some sort of weird science mechanism that can figure out a bunch of bullshit to make it work.
Does it shoot a giant blue light into the sky like a Marvel film?
Right, maybe. But I'm thinking that maybe because the stakes have to escalate. You can't just have the people start burning down the planet. Like how are the planets, or how are the plants going to respond?
They got to match that response. Yeah, you're right.
So I'm thinking that maybe
they've already
brain
proven
spores
that they can impregnate people and kill them from the inside.
So they just need to take control of them. And so we have this plant mutated human army.
Yeah.
That is now fighting back as these human plant zombie hybrids.
What if
overrunning
Zoe's
the cities?
What if Zoe becomes like the queen plant hybrid giant? Like she's bigger than all the other plant hybrid zombies, but she's got like glowing green eyes, and she's like the queen. She's the start of this all.
Yeah.
This retaliation.
And then the movie ends with Johnny Rico Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Having to take like a small team of specially trained
criminals?
SEAL team guys or whatever to infiltrate his wife's like super patient zero layer.
Yep.
To kill her because he has to kill her because now she has become the planet.
For sure. She's like the representation of Mother Earth.
Yeah, she's become like the avatar of Gaia or whatever.
Yeah, I love it so much. And obviously her base is like a local high school because Stranger Things has happened now. And so JJ's obviously he's probably mad he didn't make Stranger Things, if I'm guessing. So I think he rips off
Stranger Things
school.
Has got too much plot for JJ.
Stranger Things, if you just told me it was JJ, I'd buy it right from the start until they start answering questions, and then I wouldn't believe you. But they steal the look of that. So they're using a school, I think, the local high school for the home base.
Yeah, I could see that. But it really, like, the final act is the preparation and execution of this infiltration mission where Johnny Rico Wahlberg has to take this small team into the lair of Zoe Deschanel, Alma, Avatar of Gaia's lair, to defeat her because she has now become essentially the planet and make her submit or kill her outright.
Is he completely hardened at this point, or is there a glimmer of hope in his eyes that thinks he can turn her good or pull her out of there or keep his lady?
I think that he wants to try to disconnect the two so that he can pull his wife out, but ultimately I think he's going to realize that there's no separating the two and is going to have to kill her to save the world.
Yeah, I think you're right. Does he make the ultimate sacrifice? Is he involved in this? Is he holding the trigger in his hand and then he lets go of it and it all goes belly up, or what? Or do you think, well, no, we'll need him for number 3. People won't come see our third movie if we don't bring back Marky Mark.
Yeah. I mean, the ultimate sacrifice would make sense because, like, would he want to live with himself after killing his wife, even if his wife was like this evil earth monster?
Yeah, probably not. I think maybe we stick with the ultimate sacrifice.
I think that would make sense. That'd also be pretty cliche. So if we could find a way to make it work where he survived, and then we can just keep we can keep the movies rolling.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe he goes to make the ultimate sacrifice, but then one of the military people he's gotten himself involved with in his turn into this like Johnny Rico-esque figure. End of the movie Johnny Rico, not beginning of the movie Johnny Rico at this point. So he's turned into this like military guy sort of that just wants to kill the planet. And one of the guys that is in that organization already, that he replaces them as like the boss because he's also a scientist. So he has this knowledge and now he also wants to kill it. So he replaces this guy as like the general of this unit or whatever. And that guy and him hate each other. But at the end, he saves him, redeeming their relationship and saving him for the third movie.
Yeah. Or you could have...
Who plays that guy, though?
I think it might also make sense to have Zoe Deschanel, the mother monster, the Mother Earth monster. She regains her humanity in the last moments. Mm-hmm. And finds a way to shield Mark Wahlberg's character from her self-destruction.
Oh, like We Are Groot style.
Yeah.
Like just covers him in like a protective cocoon of plant matter.
Something like that.
I like that a lot, maybe. Puts him in a lead fridge, covers him with plants, and then the explosion only kills her. I like this.
And then the movie ends post-credits with Mark Wahlberg in his like colonial home. Yep. No wife, no kids, and he like comes home from out. He like walks into the house from outside after like tending the garden or something, or doing something in the workshop, and he you cut to him. You see his back. His back is turned to the camera. So he's facing away from the camera. He's leaning over something, and he walks to the side, revealing what he was standing in front of. And you see this plant in a pot, you know, and it's maybe like 6 inches or a foot tall, and he's just gotten done watering it or feeding it. And then kind of in a very sort of a Inception-esque finish to the movie. Right as the movie cuts to black, you see the tree. You see the plant twitch, and then boom, black.
Like make a movement unnatural to a plant, like a I'm alive type of movement, and then cuts immediately.
Yeah, like do you remember the end of Inception? So now you're left.
You leave the theater thinking like, was that plant his wife? Is he growing his wife in a pot?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Do you remember the end of Inception where like it's that top spinning and then right as the movie cuts away, it like
barely starts to
wobble. Does it start to wobble? Does it? And it's like that done.
Yeah. I love.
And that's how the movie ends.
I love that. I want to add 2 things. Somewhere in the earlier part of the movie, there's a group of people advocating for just living on the oceans. They're like, look, we don't need to live on land. We can live on the ocean. We can get everything we need from the ocean. So they start to form like these giant man-made island barge things that they're like, I want people fighting for that as an option. So
Brian,
that
I know you want to make Waterworld 2 happen, but it's not gonna.
No, but that's a good suggestion for a future episode of Unnecessary Sequel. So what would a sequel to Waterworld be? What? Waterworld, but also We Found Land Now?
Right.
Water and Land World, aka just Earth. No, so these people have to want this, and they have to fight for it. There has to be a group of people that thinks this is a good option because your post-credit scene is the first post-credit scene, and then after the credits completely roll, because we leave the world in a state of we think we won. We still maybe don't know quite how we're going to get the oxygen, but at least we stopped the threat of Mother Nature, right? And so people are starting to think like, okay, she'll get the message and just business as usual. So we have to make it clear that everyone thinks they've won. But then at the end of the rolling credits, you see a ship in the middle of the sea, just an rusty old fishing boat. And some guy goes to pull the thing up, and it leads to some like dramatic camera angles of what's in the net, you know? And then he drops the net down on the boat, and you look inside, and that moment doesn't pay off. It's just a bunch of crap. It's just like a bunch of seaweed and shit. And then he throws the seaweed back in the ocean and looks at like the couple other bits of human-made crap that he picked up from the bottom of the ocean. He's trying to sort through like what he actually caught. And then, but when he throws the seaweed off the boat, you zoom in, you make sure to focus on the fact that he touched it. And then this guy like touches, you show him shake hands with another one of his cohorts on the boat. And then you see them do something where it's clear they're about to kill themselves. Because now Mother Earth is attacking from the oceans. And we would never expect that. So that sets us up for number 3, where the attack's coming from the ocean.
That would be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah. Cool. Well, you're welcome.
I think that would be
studio makes this movie.
Or, yeah, for real. Or,
I think our movie's accidentally
what if
better than the first one.
What if Mother Nature starts infecting wildlife, and then having wildlife attack humanity? Like, can you imagine just like an army of like 1 million bears coming down on Los Angeles?
If wildlife in general decided to not live next to us anymore and just attacked us, if all the wildlife around you right now went to just attack humanity, we would for sure lose that battle, right?
Yeah, I mean, oh god, you can make this really terrifying. This could become a horror movie.
Everyone would be covered in bugs pretty quick.
Yeah, for real. You could turn this into a horror movie immediately by just having like every Black Widow and Brown Recluse actively seeking out targets rather than just like sitting in their dark corners.
Oh my god. Oh, this is beautiful. So we have more ideas for more sequels to this, it sounds like.
Oh, you could turn that into a very terrifying movie very quick.
Yeah, for sure. That would be a really interesting angle to make it. Like, you could have really cool scenes of Mother Nature. It looks like it's acting normal. And then like a group of wolves runs off into the forest instead of bugging these campers. And then you see them all stand bolt upright as if they've spotted something, and they're not moving at all. And like it pans in on their eyes and they're just motionless. And then in a uniform way, they all turn towards the people and just attack full bore. Just like make it clear that it was like they're being possessed by these chemicals or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
These are great ideas.
See, it's not hard. It's not hard, Hollywood. Just make good movies. We just did it just now.
Just be better.
Just be better. So, anyways, time to wrap up the show. So yeah, thanks for listening. This was a fun one. Thank you for helping me out here, Mike. If you guys have any questions or thoughts or comments, please leave them below if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, send me an email. Send us an email, moviejunglepod@gmail.com, and reach out on Instagram and Twitter and spread the word. I want to see if we can blow this thing up a little bit. Because if we can keep the lights on doing this, then we can make lots of really fun, cool content. So anyways, yeah. Anything else for the people, Mike?
No, that's it. Just help us help you. Like I said, if you're watching us on YouTube, like I probably will, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe. We'll have plenty of mediocre videos coming in the future. Help us spread our terrific movie ideas to the masses.
Yeah, help us infect the earth like the Plants and Happening did.
That's right.
Yeah, that's all we need. Cool. Well, until next time.
We are going to happening the world.
Yeah. Did you know that I don't have a sign-off at all? I did one once on a live show with Sully, but I don't have a sign-off. I'm going to need one someday.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Beautiful. We'll just steal that. Thanks, Bruce Almighty.